Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? Yeah, they finally approve my lewd emote, which is amazing. It looks so good. Not even kidding. It's so good. The way it just lights out of it. Okay, guys. First of all, my sincerest apologies for not streaming regularly for the past week. Um, well, I'm used to the routine of, uh, you know, having noodles at a certain time and all that. But last week they had maintenance on Monday, which threw me off my routine really badly. Um, the maintenance was on Monday, and I couldn't do my notable on Monday. And on Tuesday, I'm always busy on Tuesday. On Wednesday, um, I had another appointment that I forgot because of how much the Monday routine threw me off my the Monday maintenance threw me off my routine so badly that I almost forgot to attend to my appointment on a Wednesday morning. That's why I didn't make any prior announcement on my social media that I couldn't do nudables on Wednesday morning, so that was cancelled. Um, I was gonna do nudable on Friday, but by Thursday, I just feel absolutely drained and basically unable to like just the thought about coming on stream and read a book just turns me off a little bit. It's not because anything bad with Nudible. I love Nudible. I love doing Nudible. I love reading for people. It's just that that entire week, last week was just very very intense, I would say. And the fact that I got my house finally in Imperium, and I wanted to take the time to like slowly decorate my new nudable area that I hope people will enjoy and actually come and sit down. I don't know. So far there's the end there. Very comfortable at the end. Yes. Uh, but yeah, so far there's only the end. Oh, 5 viewers. Hello, 5 viewers. If you are new to my channel, I do reading event on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I was just explaining why I didn't do that last week because of a very very intense last week. But I'm definitely going back on my normal schedule this week, so don't worry about it. I'll be here on Friday as well. Um, Currently we are reading Takashi Hiraide's The Gas Cat, which is one of the most popular, I would say, basic bitch Japanese novels translated out there. I'm pretty sure most people who have the least interest in Japan would have read it already. Maybe, I don't know, if they're into literature like I am, or into reading like I do. Um, But yeah, it's a very short book. We managed to get through 13 chapters. The first reading, on the prior week, and today I think we are definitely going to finish it up for sure. And then we are going to start a new book on Friday, and I hope that you all will enjoy it. I think I mentioned about this before. Last month, I think I bought a new batch of books that I have personally never read before. Um, there are three books. I'm gonna review them one by one as I go along. But as we read these books, we will also change our location. So for this book that I'm choosing to read on this coming Friday, I'm going to stick to my residence at the Imperium, Ward 9, Plot 6. Yep, Ward 9, Plot 6. The lobby area is not very well done yet. It's still in the works. But if you want a place to I don't know, to G Post, feel free to come here. It looks like, try to make it look like a library of sort with a very, very deservedly queen throne for myself. But feel free to sit on it and take G Pose as you want to. But yeah, I've been busy the past week. It's a bit difficult. There are some personal issues. They are my friend is going through something really bad, and I'm trying my best to be there for him. Uh, and all that. Yeah, I hope that, I don't know. Yeah, I'm usually rambling until 11 plus 11. Just to chat with people if you guys are, I don't know, interested in talking with me. You guys can tell me what happened with you guys last week, or how's your morning today, it's all good. Let me know, what do you guys think. I feel very sad because, like, right now, most, like, because I skipped an entire week of nudibles, I think people don't really remember what I've read. I hope that maybe some of you managed to catch the VOD before today's reading, but that's fine. It's an interesting book, but it's not like, you know it's not like it's a life changing book or anything like that. Really, it's to me it's just a book. Like, I don't have much opinion about the Gas Cat, to be honest. Like, I like it, but I also don't think that it's like an amazing book. Well, I'm sorry. Um, anyways. Okay, let me just reply someone real quick. Anyway, since there's not many people around and I'm boring people out with my rambling, as I always do, I'm gonna start reading now. I'm gonna take a sip of tea and I'll be right back in about 2 seconds. Today we are reading Takashi Hiraide's The Gas Cat, Chapter 14. Even after her visits became more frequent, Chibi never let out as much as a meow, and she would not let us pick her up. It was summer. Late in the night, after we had fallen asleep, came the sound of the scampering of feet, unusual for Chibi to be running around like that at that time of the night. Sorry, I got distracted. She had jumped onto the nightstand covered with a tablecloth, which had been pushed over near the window when we laid out the futons before the bed. From there, she suddenly jumped onto the screen over the open window and was hanging there by her claws. I realized now that something was wrong. She remained fixed high up on the inside of the screen like a tropical lizard, extending her neck, trying to look over the fence beyond our yard and her house. Even in this fix, she made no sound. Finally, my wife thought of something. She went into the other room to check the floor level window and discovered that it was closed. On the previous night, Chibi had entered through the private entrance closed. Oh, sorry. Oh my god. My brain. One second. Even with this fix, she made no sound. Finally, my wife thought of something. She went into the other room to check the floor level window and discovered that it was closed. On the previous night, Chibi had entered through the front door, which was unusual, and we had inadvertently left her private entrance closed. Often, I remember now how my wife, an eccentric in her own right, ever since then referred to the cat door as Chibi's nostalgic passageway. Her longing for a way home, I presume? I suppose the screen incident was a roundabout way of the world had of telling my wife that Chibi was, after all, not ours. That fall, we took delivery of a package for the neighbors while they were away. Once she had determined that they were back, my wife took the package over to them. The front door was left open, so she rang the bell and stood in the entry waiting for someone to appear. But it was Chibi who came to greet her, rather than the lady of the house. My wife was stunned. Chibi, who had been coming over to our house every morning and every night for who knows how long and had never let out a sound, now, for the first time, opened her mouth and began expressing herself at great length. The content of her speech, or so my wife reported to me with the utmost seriousness, was not about thanking us for taking care of her for all the time, but rather the usual social niceties, chatter about the weather and so on, and all the other insincere politeness that neighbors often exchange. Even for my wife, who to all appearances seemed to have a rapport with Chibi, this was the only time she made her voice heard. And of course, her reserve went without saying when it came to adult males from whom Chibi always kept a certain distance. When winter came, I was over at the big house one afternoon in the underground storage space attached to the kitchen to stow away some large containers of kerosene. I pulled open the wood panel which acted as a door and went down, and suddenly there was Chibi, who had come down behind me. She walked leisurely across the concrete which had been added to provide a firm footing in the space, and then jumped up onto one of the shelves. With her front feet neatly aligned on her perch, she began to observe the procedures as they unfolded. as I awaited for the automatic pump to finish transferring kerosene into the small space heater. There was, of course, no central heating in the old house. I tried to imitate the way my wife would often talk to Chippy, making her words into a little sing song. Together, just we two down below the ground. In response, Chibi crouched down, feet still placed together, and shaped her mouth as if to roar like a savage beast, all the while glaring at me fixedly. Meanwhile, she gathered herself as if she were about to pounce. Perhaps it was a form of intimidation meant as a proper young lady's preemptive strive against a potential molester. On another day, she came bolting through the open door facing the little garden of the guest house like a bullet and immediately hid in the tiny space between some furniture and a small storage, with her backside facing me. She was shaking so hard I felt sorry for her. When I turned towards the door, there was Cal, the calico cat that belonged to the neighbors to the south, eyes blazing, ready to pounce. Somehow, this attack on Chibi looked to be more jealousy based than territorial. Perhaps because Chibi came and went as she liked between the two houses. I had noticed that there was some dispute going on between them a few days earlier when I had rescued Chibi from a branch high up in the tree where he had her cornered. Cal was an impressive calico, but only Chibi was allowed inside, which may have been what led to the recurring cycle of attacks. The more she was attacked, the more cautious and fearful she became, while Cal's behavior became increasingly bold. He's probably absolutely cute and lovable when he's at home next door, said my wife. So she began calling his name and talking to him a bit when he appeared in the garden so he wouldn't feel so jealous. Mrs. Muddy seemed to be in the same class as the old lady, for she was getting on in years now. Her fur had a pattern of India ink and mud-colored splotches, but her eyes were large and translucent, and she had a calm disposition, even a cozy air of nostalgia about her. I suppose she had her reasons of her own. Some doors and windows of people's houses, old alley cat that she was there. She must have been in the situation at some point in her life where she had a home. One night, when my wife was home alone, she sensed the movement of cloth hanging over the floor-level window and heard the sound of cat feet, which meant that Chibi had arrived. But when she turned around, that was Mrs. Muddy. The window must have been left open wider than usual. When their eyes met, both Mrs. Muddy and my wife were surprised, and the old alley cat turned right around and ran out, bumping into the side of the cat door on the way and making a loud noise. My wife provided a vivid description of the event. "It was pretty funny," she said, but I felt a little bit sorry for her. Strangely enough, Chibi and Mrs. Muddy seemed to get along. Once my wife saw the two of them out in the lightning alley, Mrs. Muddy rolling around on the ground showing her big white belly, and Chibi was directly above her perched on the wooden fence. Mrs. Muddy then ran into the bushes lining the neighbor's property to the north. Chibi followed in close pursuit. The two disappeared into the darkness and it was quiet. After a while, Chibi came over to the house alone and wife put the question to her, "Are you friends with Mrs. Muddy?" Perhaps it was because she was the age of one of the old woman's granddaughters, but in any case, my wife and the landlady seemed to have no disagreement in particular. My wife says that on the other day she saw Chibi and Mrs. Muddy together for a long time, deep in conversation on the other side of the wooden fence on the deep north end of property, just below the knot hole through which images of passerbys always appeared. They weren't meowing together in matter-of-fact way. They seemed more like they were intimately discussing their personal lives. She tilted her head to the side as she spoke, as if not quite believing her own words. A few days passed after Chibi had raced like a bullet into the house running from Cal. It was late morning on a January day, and my wife was alone in the house. After she awoke, she began to prepare breakfast when Chibi emerged from the closet and jumped down onto the tatami mat floor. She stood there for a while. Something wasn't right. Some of the white fur on her back was torn out, and through it you could see the red colored skin. Chibi looked up at my wife for a while and then slowly returned to her place next door. It appeared that she wasn't injured badly, so my wife calmed herself and returned to her desk where she had a rush job waiting. In less than 15 minutes, Chibi was back. She had a gaze bandages wrapped around her torso. She jumped on the desk as if to say, "Look what happened to me." Then she sat down, exposing her helpless figure to my wife, and gazed at her with a feeble expression. My wife gazed back. Then she thought of how they would soon have to part, and all the conflicting feelings came rushing in. After all, she isn't ours, but maybe I wish she really were. Chibi stared intently with her deep green eyes at the clear liquid flowing from my wife's eyes and rolling down her cheeks. These human things called tears. Good morning, Yujung. Yes, new venue. Do you know the place? Would you like to come by right now if you are in game? It is my own place, basically. Nah, I try to make this as cozy as possible for everyone, basically. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, put that. It is at Imperium, Ward 9, Plot 6. Diane, can you type it down for me for Yujun? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Alright. How's your morning, Yujun? Diane can't stop using the lewd emoji. It's so good. It's the best. Oh man. Okay, we are on chapter 15 now. One sip of tea and I'll be right back. Well, that's good to know. 7 out of 10. That's not bad. That's not bad. Well, let's try to get it up to at least 9 today, huh, Yujung? And we shall continue. Takashi Hiraide is a guest cut, chapter 15. The year 1990 arrived, and already it was the middle of February. She always appeared during the day, but why was it? Was it that she came again at night? It must be because the family she lived next door went to bed early, and had become one of my wife's greatest pleasure in life to go out into the garden to greet Chibi no matter how busy she might be at the moment and no matter how cold the weather is. Chibi would climb her favorite tree, a smallish pine in the center of the garden. If you tossed a ping pong ball to her, she would jump quickly into action like a volleyball player on the attack and complete a perfect spike. Chibi never tired of this game no matter how many times it was repeated. At night, my wife would follow Chibi wherever she wanted to go on the grounds of the stately mansion. Sometimes they would end up mounting the stairs into the main house itself. With almost no furniture left, the house was like a great hollow shell of darkness. Next to the raised alcoves in the parlor was a study in the grand old style. Moonlight passing through the paper screen bathed in the room in a soft lunar glow. With her back on the course with her back on the source of light, she tossed the ping pong ball to Chibi, who waited at her leisure on the built-in deck. Chibi batted it back, and the game continued for so long my wife lost track. Soon, the shapes of things became more visible in the moonlight, bolstered by the lights shining in the guest house and the light in the entry of the main house, which was always left on to guard against burglars. In the twilight of the big house, the white ball reflecting the moonlight could be seen dancing in the air, and its sound hitting the hard surface echoed through the halls. As she danced along with the small sphere, Chibi was clothed in moonlight. Chibi now played all day in the garden, which showed the first stirrings of spring's energy and chaos, rolling in the plum blossoms, getting the petals stuck in the fur, swatting flies, sniffing lizards. Suddenly, climbing a tree, she would transform herself into lightning. Normally, lightning travels down from the sky, but Chibi ran up. My wife wrote in her notebook of the electrifying speed with which Chibi climbed the persimmon tree, like the tip of a lightning bolt, and elsewhere, as if arousing the thunder. And indeed, that's exactly what it was like. She brought to mind a passage from the Nihon Shoki Chronicles of Japan, which described the god of hunting. The classical text reads, "Before the gate, at the foot of the tree that stands near the well, there is a rare guest. By his countenance I think he is not common. If he is descended from the heaven, he should have a heavenly face, and if he is of the earth, his face too should be earthly. Truly, this is a great beauty. Might he be a prince and heir to the imperial throne." Her figure balanced out on a branch at the top of the persimmon tree. She had dashed up, carefully gauging the wind, and bracing herself for its next movements, seemed to have separated itself from both heaven and earth, projected into a space that was ultimately dimensionless. I heard that cats often offer their complete trust only to the people who are feeding them, so they only reveal their really cute sides to their owners. Hence, it follows that we, the odd couple living next door, who were not really Chibi's owners but were merely getting a taste of what cat ownership might be like on an ad hoc basis, was most likely not shown her most coquettish behavior. But that also meant that Chibi was willing to show us another side of her personality which she didn't show her real owners. Her true nature, her refusal to pander to humans, the untouched, the wild part of her character. This is where the sense of mystery that Chibi always left us with came from. I think a prime example was that part of her that I named, for the lack of better term, a lightning catcher. That was this is the title of a legendary series of the works in color, lithograph, and encaustic by a painter who had started his career in a copperplate engraving. I was invited to a retrospective focusing on his prints held at a small privately run museum in a part of Tokyo consisting mostly abandoned industrial warehouses. I also gave a talk with the artist. What did Lightning Catcher mean to the artist? The series of works arose out of many years of the artist's exploration of color. The idea seemed to literally jump right out at him from the classic splash ink painting of the Kano school. In these works, color comes into existence out of the materials and the very atmosphere itself, followed by the images, ever changing, vital, raw. The work attempts to capture the actual instant, that sight of the excruciating birth of the image. The conventional assumption is that the painter extracts colors and images from nature, fixing these elements on a surface to produce a completed work. But in this case, the painter refuses to fix the images, this being no more than the constant changes and movements of matter and air. In other words, the artist steps directly into nature and attempts to capture the actual flow of color and image. In a certain way, this seems to make him akin to Leonardo da Vinci. Toward the end of our talk, I mentioned the fact that characters making up the title of the series could be read in either of two ways: a process which catches lightning, or the capture of something quickly with the lightning speed. The artist simply laughed and would not specify which reading was the correct one. The third member of the discussion was an art critic, and our opinion differed on this subject. When I suggested that, according to my sense of language, the simplest and most literal interpretation is the first, while the second, less standard reading implies the act of capturing something with movements like lightning. There were two series of prints under the same title. One made use of encaustic, in which color pigments were added to hot beeswax and then applied to prepared wood rather than canvas. The artist must apply the quick drying syrupy substance and instantaneously capture the image. The lightning capture process was performed in monochrome. The next series made use of color lithography. Colors are applied over a slate plate and fluctuate, shifting dimension as they appear. What the artist attempts to capture in this approach is the fluctuation itself, the shifting between dimensions. At the risk of belaboring a point, the first method, in which the artist attempts to capture something with lightning quickness, would be lightning capture, while the second, in which the attempt to capture colors which appear like lightning, would be capture of lightning. Going by this definition, Chibi's